Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Dr. Brook, I don't think I have to do too much of an introduction. Welcome back to the institution you've been helping setting up. So I'll start directly with my question. You've spent 2 years helping establish the legal and operational foundations of Ethiopian capital market. Now, as a CEO of EIH, which is a major institutional investor, you experience the market from a different vantage point now. What aspects of the market infrastructure have proven efficient and effective in practice? And where do you see the opportunities for continued evolution as the market evolves?
Thanks so much, Hana. First, I really want to congratulate you and the entire team for hosting a brilliant event. This is the second round, and we hope that this continues to be an exciting opportunity, exciting gathering for anyone who's interested in the capital market. And for me personally, it's a great satisfaction to see the young entrepreneurs, the young professionals who we brought on board 2 years ago, still working and growing and flourishing. So that's really a big achievement for you and the entire team. So getting into your question, in terms of the growth of the capital market, where we are right now, we should not be comfortable and say we've achieved all the major milestones and we're at the sky is clear and we can run. There is still significant amount of work to be done. And one of the work that needs to be done is we still have to deliver on communicating what does it mean? What does it mean to be part and parcel of the capital market? Your money that's stuck in a bank or your money that's sitting idle, the 5,000, 6,000 birr, not the billions and whatever that sovereign wealth fund like ourselves can participate in the marketplace, but individual retail level. What does that mean when it comes to the capital market? Its impact on physical discipline. The 1,000, 2,000 birr that can add up to be 50 million, 60 million birr that goes into a startup, that goes into companies to help them to expand. That's the work still that we need to do. And with EIH, we've shown our role as market participants by participating in the treasury bill market. We're now established a capital market, dedicated capital market team inside our investment structure, whereby the investment team will think about IPO, will think about corporate bond issuance and restructuring of companies through the capital market mechanism. So we're doing that experiment based on the market's readiness. Some of our companies, we have ideas into which ones that we want to divest through the capital market. So our team is developing that. But our major role would be as market makers. Our major role going forward, I really think that we can put in 10, 15 billion birr into the capital market ecosystem by really participating when banks or other institutions are investing or issuing their security instruments and then absorbing a significant amount of it, but also doing the virtuous loop by offering it through one of our brokers to make sure that we can play both on the demand and supply side. We have the capacity to absorb any market volatility as well. So that's how I see it progressing, but I think there's still a lot to be done, and we have to double down on what you guys are doing and also what we're trying to do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brook. I mean, the issue you've raised on financial awareness and increasing the retail investors' financial literacy is really important. As we have seen in the past couple of decades, the retail investor have been shouldering the share buying and selling in Ethiopia. So I think we should work on that, and it will definitely bear a fruit and contribute to the development of capital market. But in terms of institutional investor base, as you know, we have pension funds, insurance, now EIH as being an anchor institutional investor. This large institutional investors, including sovereign wealth funds like EIH, globally often plays a stabilizing role in the capital markets. And as you've mentioned it, EIH is doing a lot of works in terms of mainstreaming capital markets in your operations. And as EIH considers its investment strategies, what roles do you envision for the organization, for EIH, and its, of course, subsidiaries in public securities market, whether it's an equity or debt instrument, as more Ethiopian companies access the capital market? Building on that, EIH, as the CEO of EIH, you manage a concentrated portfolio of strategic assets across multiple sectors. So as the capital market matures and provides more liquid investment opportunities, how is EIH thinking about portfolio diversification? Do you think the capital market can serve as a mechanism for EIH as an institutional investor to both divest stakes, partial IPOs, and reinvest in emerging sectors, both, as you've said it rightly, both on demand and supply side of the capital markets?
Yeah, so I think maybe towards talking about how EIH structured, so that it gives an idea to the the audience as well, and frame the answer. So Ethiopian Investment Holding, it's 100% government-owned sovereign wealth fund. It's the largest in the continent. It's 38th in the world. We own most of our assets across various sectors, from telecom, airline, and chemical industry, real estate. And we have two different structural arrangements in terms of how we manage our portfolios and our investments. We have a portfolio division where our portfolio team manages 41 of the assets that we have. And then the investment team works on greenfield, brownfield projects. Currently, we're working on over 36 different investments. For example, the Dangote $3 billion deal is secured and done through the investment arm of EIH. The $1 billion investment that we secured, we're working on finalizing on the aluminum smelter. Comes through our investment wing, and there are several investment strategies that we're doing. So in our view, we think that we're highly diversified. We don't think we're concentrated. If the issue is liquidity, yes. I mean, we're reasonably liquid compared to other companies or other sovereign wealth funds across the continent because we receive significant amount of dividend, and our task is actually managing what's the best way to allocate this liquidity. Just now, within the first quarter and a bit, we are just over 14 billion birr in terms of dividend that we've received. Last year was 21 billion. So we have to be strategically allocating this money either through the capital markets and by way of treasury instrument or find a time deposit. We were participating close to over $5 billion last year across different banks, putting in and time deposit instruments. So we're very liquid in terms of structure. In terms of the companies themselves, though, they're very diversified. Now, each of them have an option to participate in the capital market infrastructure. We have a company that wanted a 5 billion birr data instrument, for example. And that 5 billion birr was secured for this company, but would have preferred at least this company goes into the capital market and then issued this, and we can backstop that if there is no appetite. But I'm sure with the strength of the balance sheet of this company and the capacity to absorb resource, and a lot of retail investors would have also participated. But the infrastructure is not fully ready yet. So I'm sure going forward, when we acquire new tools and things that we need for our companies, I'm sure the capital market would be an ideal opportunity. On the other side, where we're seeing mergers happening in one or two possible deals that we're working with private sector partners, they're looking at their exit strategy as is on the exchange, which is, of course, it warms my heart to see that an investor is already thinking ahead 5-7 years down the line. And not only they're thinking about exit strategy, but they're thinking about the exit strategy through the capital market ecosystem, which is really wonderful. So not only our SOEs that reforming themselves, even the investment arm, the investment side of our exercise, we're looking at 5-7 years down the line to participate on this. The other major work that we're doing is, as I'm sure you know, we're establishing with an amazing support of the African Development Bank, one of the most, the most uncelebrated institution as far as I'm concerned that supports the capital market from day one, before we started receiving all the supports from everybody else. They were the premier supporters that helped us to set up where the capital market is today. And they continue to support us right now. They've allocated $10 million. We're matching that $10 million, and we're going to set up the Youth Entrepreneurship Bank to make sure that we start the investment early. We start the investment down the chain on the startups, help them grow, and we're working with the exchange to see if we can do this at the crowdfunding structure, whereby we come in 50%, invest on them, and then 50% comes in through the crowdfunding platform, and then they would be a tradable equity instrument. So there are many exciting things that we're working, and we're playing our role as institutional investors. Final thing before I hand it over back to you, Hana. One of the major important lessons that we've learned during the establishment of the exchange, the establishment of the capital market is, we were doing several tours, learning from everyone, trying to learn from their mistake rather than their successes, right? So in one location, what they've informed us, back then, EIH was at the early stage and being established, and they were telling us, make sure your sovereign wealth fund, whatever structure it ends up being, let it be ready. When you start allowing foreign direct investors to come and participate in your equity market, you need to have a strong institutional investor locally that can absorb the shock, because foreign direct investors, especially on the equity market, they're anxious. They're anxious. I mean, today the sun is not clear enough. They want to extract all their capital. The same thing that they've done in China. If you look at the equity market in China, you thought that the whole equity market would collapse, but their sovereign wealth funds took all the beating and sustained the market. So our role in the future, we think that when we start having foreign direct investors coming and participating, we need to have that sovereign role, play that sovereign role to have a stabilizing role in the market, because most of the reaction of the investors is not really market related. It's more political or others. So that's also something that we plan to play a role in the near future.
Thank you so much. I think you've touched most concepts in the capital market, basically. You've raised capital market as an alternative source of financing for your portfolio companies, be it through corporate debt or equity issuances. You've raised capital market as a source of funding for SMEs. You've touched on crowdfundings. You've touched upon capital market as an exit mechanism for early stage investors, whether in SMEs or corporates like the portfolios you're running. I mean, it's very exciting. And EIH as an institutional investor and an anchor investor in this, most of the things, how it can provide kind of a signal for both domestic and foreign investors is discussed. So I think my job is done, but I have to follow on that, especially on the corporate debt side of it. As you know, we don't really have a market for corporate debt so far. We're working on it with, of course, with your institution. And there is also a huge infrastructure need in the country. So how do you see, especially because Ethiopia's infrastructure development has traditionally relied on government-backed financing through Ministry of Finance or domestic revenues. So as the corporate debt market develops, how is Ethiopian Investment Holdings thinking about capital structure strategies for its portfolio companies, specifically, to be part of the capital market exercise, the things you've mentioned, what milestones do you think is needed to be achieved before we might see investment-grade corporate issuances from the regulatory side of it, from the technology side of it, from the trust and confidence from the market side of it, from the capacity and investment decision-making capacities of institutional investors side of it, and maybe you can add even more sides to the question.
Yeah, no, thank you. So this is why I started my conversation with you saying that we should not be comfortable. The work is not done yet. There's still a lot to be done. So all the not only on the equity side, but also on the corporate bond or corporate, any type of corporate security instrument side, you have to do multiple things. First, you have to convince even the corporate to say, this is a much better avenue for you to raise capital. What does that mean? They have to be, their audited financial has to be spot on. They need to have independent board members, depending on the requirement of the Capital Market Authority or ABBE or any relevant legal entity. And then you have to go into the market and then sell the idea, the upside of this investment to retail institutional investors to come and participate. So there is a huge work that needs to be done. Do we have the capital to mobilize? Absolutely, we have the capital to mobilize. What is missing is, one, a trustworthy corporate entity that you would want to put your money and take the risk and know that at least it's you're de-risked to a certain extent, investing in this type of company. So we still have that long way to go. But I wanted to make, I want to also raise the issue of the responsibility, where, what's the responsibility of the Capital Market Authority, what's the responsibility of EIH, and what's the responsibility of, I'm sure there are so many companies that are licensed here. Please do not sleep on this license. Work on it. Make sure you keep your team. Some of it is really embarrassing because we're having a conversation about trying to support us. We want brokers, we want advisors. But this is not just because you have the certificate, it doesn't necessarily mean the work is done. You have to really equip yourself with smart people who understand this, work on strategy, come up with an idea, because I don't want to figure out the problem. You figure out the problem for me, you come up with the solution for me, I provide you the capital. That's it. So if I'm providing the capital, I'm identifying the problem, I'm providing the solution, might as well do the whole bloody thing myself. So all of these licensed capital market service providers, they should not sit idle with this license. They need to really be efficient, deliver on this license. So their role is to go and market. Their role is to go and promote. Their role is really to go out there and teach. And the capital is out there, so you can mobilize that, and then you will be able to, you see this market growing. In terms of our SOEs, our portfolio companies, and the corporate markets, and the corporate debt side, we're still waiting for Siraj to finish his work with a lot of friends of ours. So the minute that he's done, of course, we can finalize that. We're still waiting for Asafa to finish his IPO clinic work, and then hopefully that will give us a good entry point to develop this. So there is a lot of work that's going on with the ECMA team that ties into what we're trying to do at EIH. When it's appropriate and mature, we'll make the announcement, present to our board, because I think it's very attractive to the market, attractive to our companies as well, to access additional capital. And then based on that, we can really develop it. But rest assured, we have huge supporters at EIH because we want this to work. It's a good alternative for us also to raise capital.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brook. It's an Amharic saying, "Kabalinjara garat saded ibalal," because you know too much about the institution. You are answering it so perfectly. You've raised very important questions in terms of capacity building for these institutions so that they can understand capital market as a form of alternative financing and to understand some of the exercises as well. But I've had what you've mentioned on audit and transparency. I want to ask you two questions on that. Why do you think is transparency important, not just for the capital markets, but for to increasing the value of the portfolio companies you're managing? So even if it's not about capital markets, why is it regulation and transparency important in this ecosystem where we are operating? And I know you have a lot of conversations with your peers all over the globe, including African sovereign wealth funds like EIH. What lessons do you think are relevant to the Ethiopian context in terms of transparency and in terms of participating in the capital markets? Thank you.
I think in terms of the corporate governance, I mean, it comes under, you have to look at the overall transparency issue from the point of view of corporate governance. The first reason why you want to have a transparent company is for the sake of keeping the company alive. If there are many funny characters around these huge companies. Unless otherwise, you can really look at their audited financial. You can really measure their performance. Then there's no way you can tell if their revenue that they've registered is really healthy, the EBITDA multiple, the EBITDA that the operating profit that you're looking at is really truly registered based on the performance that they're doing. We have incidents. We can read the financial statements, so we can catch errors, we can catch some criminal intention, and we get them all corrected. But the first reason why you do it, especially if you're in the private sector, you do it because you want the company to survive. For EIH type of company or a sovereign wealth fund, we do it because we have a huge responsibility. This is not my asset. This is a public asset. You guys are the owners. So for us, we've inherited all these assets. We have to make them better. We have to make them grow and transfer that to the next generation that comes after us. So in order to do that, they need to have their audited financial clear. They need to have a corporate governance structure whereby in their board, 1/3 independent. We've done in most our boards, unheard of before, 1/3 independent. Look at CBE, 1/3 of its board are independent. In many of our other state-owned enterprises, we're doing the same thing. We're hiring CEOs competitively, smart, capable CEOs at any cost. We're bringing them and helping us to drive that. That's also part of the corporate governance, that part of the transparency issue. And this helps them to grow. This helps them to expand their outreach. As we always refer at EIH, we have a lot of impact on individuals' lives, from your gas to your electricity, your phone, your travel. So if we don't manage these companies efficiently, then it will be very serious issue for us, not only in terms of growth, but dissatisfaction as well. But in terms of what we've learned a lot from many different sovereign wealth funds, both in the continent and the region, and of course across the globe. We always talk about Malaysia and the Khazanah Fund. We've looked at their subsidiary transformation program, which we've adopted, and then we have initiatives that we transform companies to be effective. But as we speak right now, we have 41 companies. All of them have 2020, 2023 audited financial done. Significant of them, maybe a handful, are left with 2023, 2024 left. I was reading a report yesterday, 12 of our companies have already submitted their last year audited financial report. So we're making progress. We're resolving legacy issues. And in the outer years, what we're thinking about is there will be a quarterly report that will be communicated. We don't have to wait a year to look at the financials. And that transparency creates trust. And then that gets us ready to the capital market ecosystem. Because if you are already comfortable with us before we came to the capital market, because we're transparent, and it becomes easy for investors to put their money and trusting these companies. That's why it's very important.
Thank you so much for that. But I want to go back before we conclude this side chat. You've mentioned the bank for entrepreneurs. So then using some of the capital market elements to support SMEs, startups, and entrepreneurs in Ethiopia. So I'm not sure if it's the right question for the CEO of an EIH leading the biggest corporations in the country, but do you think the capital market is for SMEs, startups? Because you have also supported the draft of the startup proclamation. So the team is here, they know your contribution on startups and your passion for SMEs. But as the CEO of EIH, do you think the capital market is for SMEs, and how and why?
Absolutely. I mean, but we have to distinguish. I would like to work, and even if it's not my role sometimes, on SMEs and startups, is not because I look at our market as an SME market or a startup market, because there's a clear distinction. I look us as a market, Ethiopia, as big industry market. We're not a country fit for small things. We're biblical when it comes to many things. You know, our volcanoes, our terrains, and our wars, our peace, our love, everything is biblical. So we're not SME type of country. But we need to have the SMEs to build and to become giants. And our current structure, our current capital structure, doesn't allow industry, with Dangote, for example. I mean, we have to pull in capital that was $3 billion. It's huge. And it's only EIH type of institution can shoulder that in Ethiopia at this point in time. No private sector could do that. So I really want us to focus now developing SMEs and startups, not because I want this is a startup or small business type of economy. We're going to be giants, and I'm sure of that. So having said that, what's the role of capital market? What's the role of EIH in terms of supporting? On startups, we're already developing a program called Jump Startup. We're finalizing the structure, whereby we're going to have selected startups to be incubated inside our SOEs. So all our 41 SOEs will have a plethora of options. They will identify, let's say, if you're Ethiopian Airlines, if you're a startup that have a solution for Ethiopian Airlines, you'll come and present. If this is idea that ET wants to incubate, they will give you access, will support you, and you go through the program for a year, I think, a year and a half. And then if you're a success, then EIH, through the YIB investment, put in capital, and then mobilize capital from also through the current funding structure. So we are finalizing this program, and we will launch it hopefully very soon. And then from that, we end up getting the unicorns of the Ethiopian market, the giants that will end up transpiring. On the SME side, our role is trying to give them contract, trying to give them access to business in terms of the services that we take from them, so that they can grow and expand. And as I've said, we don't want them to be stuck as SME. We want them to grow and then scale up. The market is there. And in terms of providing the finance, this is something that we have to also think about. But we do it through the portfolio management strategy, whereby one of our companies working with these SMEs and trying to help them to grow. That's the strategy that we think could work.
Thank you so much. I think the Jumpstart program you've mentioned basically solves some of the questions from SMEs and startups, like the capacity, the market access, and the financing. So I'd say it would greatly benefit SMEs and startups in Ethiopia. On a concluding note, I don't want to put a timestamp on it, but for EIH, as you've mentioned it, you envision yourselves as market makers from the demand side and supply side. You are trying to invest in financial instruments that support SMEs and startups, get into new products like corporate dates, whether it's thematic or conventional. So where do you see EIH? Maybe what are the KPIs you have in mind, both for EIH and for both the capital markets, where our paths will cross maybe in 5, 10, 3, 8 years? I don't know. I don't want to put a timestamp on it, but I think our paths should cross in a way that it kind of supports the market to grow and showcase an inclusive capital market whereby it supports the development goal of the country. So where do you see our paths crossing, and where do you see, you know, the works we do?
I think, of course, the path of EIH and capital market have crossed multiple times already, not only because of this switch here, but also EIH is the one that established and funded Ethiopian Securities Exchange. We're still majority owners, so it's already started, it's still there. But I get your point in terms of the looking forward, though, where the capital market, for us, that's why we established the team, as I was mentioning earlier. The capital market team inside EIH will be able to tell us and give us a guideline and a direction to say, okay, you know what, the way we manage our minority shareholder positions, we have 5 or 6 companies that we are minority shareholders. If we want to exit, this is the strategy. If we want to raise more capital, this is the strategy. If we want to IPO, which we have an idea of which companies that we want to IPO up to a certain amount, then this is the capital market venue that we'll be using. But more than that, I think the most fundamental synergy between EIH, capital market, will be when we are ready to be a robust market maker, providing the necessary finance. Because you know, the document that we used to share initially at the capital market was a report that was done in 1974 by a gentleman that came to teach at Addis Ababa University, and was looking at the you know, the capital market ecosystem, the 1970s, and one of the things that he wrote is there was in fact an entity called Ethiopian Investment Committee or Commission. And its job is it gets funding from Ministry of Finance, and His Imperial Majesty will give a direction as to where this equity needs to go to support you know, cotton farms, to support agriculture projects or industry. And that's the government being a market maker until it develops, because you know, there is still a lot to be done. So I think the synergy between capital market and EIH will be when we are ready to be strong market maker to help the market navigate turbulent waters, especially once we start having foreign direct investors coming in. They might, you know, disappear if as I've said, if the weather changes, which we've experienced in the past. Then we have to really cushion the landing for the companies that will be listed. But at the same time, our domestic, you know, unicorns will be listed. We want to make sure that the subscription is successfully concluded to help them to grow as well. So that's where I see a successful synergy that's happening.
Thank you so much for that commitment and assurance. Maybe if I give you like 45 seconds, what would be your message to our audience today on capital markets? You've started on how service providers should embrace their license and do what they are expected of. But for maybe licensed entities or non-licensed entities, we have professionals here, lawyers, accountants, other co-regulators in the room, developmental partners, and many students from universities and colleges. So if you have to say 1 or 2 sentences to the audience, what would that be? I would conclude on that.
Thank you for this opportunity, Hana. But I think for a lot of you, especially finalizing your school years and getting into the capital market ecosystem, trying to understand, you know, we're very jealous of you because you don't have to establish a capital market. It's already established. All you have to do is participate. It's an amazing opportunity for most of you, you know, in the ages of early 20s. You'll get it. The concept is not sophisticated. As I've always said it in the past, this is not a rocket science. It's a very simple concept. You just need to understand it fully and implement it. So as a professional, this is where you would grow. Now you have so many licensed service providers. I really encourage you to study more, to dig deep, to have the experience, to have the exposure, to help the capital market to grow. Because ultimately in 10, 15 years, you guys are the ones that are going to lead institutions like capital market. And then of course, the major investment banks that will be a bedrock of the Ethiopian economy. And our capacity, our strength is our number and our talent. So you guys are the ones who will be leading this. So I really encourage you to continue to do the amazing work that you are doing in terms of showing interest, but also participating. But for the banks and for the license holders, trust me, I personally feel that we paid so much sacrifice for this thing to work. It didn't come easy. This license that you have today is a product of so many sleepless nights and so many struggles to make sure that we have a functioning and working capital market. Do not sleep on it. Use it. Help the market to grow. From zero, we are where we are today. So the license holders, because I get the malaise in the marketplace, I got the license now, nothing is happening. It's not enough, it's not good enough. The responsibility is now down to you. Hana's job is to regulate, my job is to provide capital, and the lounge's role is to make sure that the market functions properly and there is no technical glitch. We can't be the advocates everywhere. You guys need to be the ones that are driving this. And of course, for the development partners that supported us, the job is not done yet. There's still a lot to be done. And really, it's very important for both Capital Market and ASX, your continued support and role. And count us as your champions, of course, at EIH. But as it's been shown, the past 7 years, the reform government has delivered everywhere and at every corner. We're a country that we can transform a city within 1 year. And we're a country that can create a capital market from nothing and get it where it is today. And we're a country that's ambitious to build a $10 billion airport. We're a country that will deliver on one of the most sophisticated urea plant in this continent within the next 38 months. So I have full confidence on everyone that will deliver also to make the capital market one of the shining star in East Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brook, former Director General for Ethiopian Capital Markets Authority and the Chief Executive Officer of Ethiopian Investment Holdings. Thank you so much for this exciting conversation. Thank you all.